In Undertale and Deltarune, we get two prophecies, each one correlating to the world they come from. In this theory, I try to explain why prophecies in both games seem to be inaccurate to the events of the games, and how these can be explained by using each other as an example. Okay, so quickly, I'll just go over the prophecies in both games. Undertale has a very short prophecy, which is, however, there's a prophecy, the angel, the one who has seen the surface, they will return, and the underground will go empty. This is theorized to be either Azriel, Kara, or Frisk. Then Deltarune's prophecy is a lot longer. I'll just skim through this a bit. The main points are that that when Earth draws her final breath, only then, shining with hope, three heroes will appear at World's Edge: a human, a monster, and a prince from the dark. Only they can seal the fountains and banish the angels' heaven. That's the important part of the Deltarune's prophecy for what I'm going to talk about today. Both of these prophecies are known as the Delatrune, as that is the sigil that we see in both games. Okay, I'll go over my issues I have with both prophecies real quickly. Okay, so there are many issues with Undertale's one. Mainly that the underground never actually goes empty in the game. Because, okay, in Flowey's neutral, it's implied that you go to Flowey's safe file rather than yours. So that means even though where you are is empty, it most likely doesn't mean that your underground is empty. Azriel is very close to emptying the underground, as they absorb every single soul, but it is confirmed by Nabsablook that they were not absorbed during that scenario. In the True Pacifist ending, it is stated that some stay in the underground, meaning the underground has not gone empty. In the Genocide run, Hotland is evacuated, meaning you can't kill everyone there, and also, even when Kara kills everyone, they're actually just destroying the universe, meaning there is no underground left to go empty. Deltarune has a few less issues, but that's mainly because we haven't seen the game play out, but even from what we've seen, we can still find a few issues. The biggest issue is the fact that Rouse hides information from us. The Angels' Heaven and the Dark Mountain are said to only be able to be sealed by all three heroes, or by the three heroes, yet we've only ever seen Chris need to be there to seal a fountain. The line "heroes appear on World's Edge" is odd, because it says that they will appear once the calamity happens, but at this point the heroes have already appeared, and not at World's Edge. Also, the first prophecy that you get in chapter 1 says the roaring will happen, and then we'll stop it, but then the second prophecy says the roaring might happen, but we need to stop it before it can happen. Which is weird and goes back to the idea that Rouse is hiding stuff from us. Okay, I'm going to quickly do a summary of the story of both Undertale and Deltarune, because it will be important for me to explain. In the Undertale, you meet a bunch of friends, but the main people we're going to focus on is Frisk, Kara, and Flowey. At the end of the game, the Angel will create a void or a new world based on their desires that you will have to stop or destroy. In Deltarune, you meet a bunch of friends and people, with the main three being Chris, Susie, and Rouse, and we are told that an event will happen where the Angel will enact their will, causing all the dark worlds and networks to go empty of all living creatures, e.g. the roaring where all the darkness becomes stone and all the lightness die off. Now, these storylines are following the opposite game's prophecy, rather than their own. And that's when my theory, the inverse prophecy theory, comes in. The inverse prophecy theory is the theory that the two main prophecies originated from the other game. Similar to the idea that Sans comes from Undertale rather than or that Sans comes from Deltarune even. But with the prophecies being altered enough to fit the new universe they're found in, while also explaining why these prophecies never come true fully in their respective games. If you move the prophecies to the other game that they don't come from originally, then they actually begin to make more sense, and they hold more weight and more proof than the originals. If you put Deltarune's prophecy in Undertale, the prophecy becomes one of Frisk the human, Kara the prince, which Prince can be non-binary, and Flowey the monster. with the angel making their heaven, which can be seen as the void Omega Flower in, or the void Azrael, Dreamer, or Kara appears in. In Deltarune, Undertale's prophecy becomes the idea that dark worlds will run empty after the angel causes the roaring, turning all the darkness into stone, which was obviously the underground running empty. Both of these properties actually work better in the other game than they do in the original games. So, now I've explained my theory, I'm going to explain how the angels interact with these worlds. Here are who I think that Undertale's angels are, because I think there's multiple. You have Flowey, his heaven is at the end of any neutral run, where he takes you to the void of his own save file, where he then becomes Omega Flowey. Azrael also creates a void, but this one's a lot more like rainbow, and he also takes all the other souls with him. And this one actually happens within our own save file. And then Kara's one is the one where Kara's heaven, or Kara's angel's heaven, is when they destroy literally everything and there's nothing that remains. As each of these ideas fits with what the other characters want, Here are the possible two candidates I have for Deltrune's angel. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit more rough because we don't know who the angel is yet. But here's how they might fit with Undertale's prophecy. Noelle might try to save her. Might hear about the prophecy of creating the angel's heaven. Obviously, in this theory, that is going to be wrong. So they're going to try to make the angel's heaven, but instead they're accidentally going to cause the end of the world while trying to save her father with healing spells. Then Chris, they may know about the fact that if they do the roaring, the dark worlds will run empty, and in a more meta storyline, they could try to destroy the dark worlds because they know if there's no dark worlds, there's no game, and if there's no game, we lose the connection to their soul, which means we can't control them anymore. Now, the biggest question with this is how did this happen? And the first thing we need to figure out is who actually made these prophecies. In Delatrune, it's kind of it's very heavily hinted that it was Gaster, or at least theorized that it's Gaster, who told Rouse and the other secret bosses about all the secrets and the prophecies. And because of the fact that every character in Delatrune who does stuff very similar to what characters in Undertale would do, we could probably assume that this connects to Gaster, meaning Gaster would have made the prophecy in Undertale as well, which could line up timeline-wise depending on when Gaster is around. And it could even be the mistake Gaster made where he fell into one of his creations that split across space and time and caused this almost this weird error in both of the universes to take place, or something to do with his invention he talks about in entry 17 could have been the cause of the swap happening. This is a bit of a shorter theory because this wasn't meant to be just me explaining my opinions of the prophecies, but it became an actual theory about them swapping around after I put more thought into it. But my final thoughts are the fact that this theory is decent at explaining these few things. It changes World's Edge to being this unknown or vague statement to actually being the Underground's edge or the entrance that we fall in at the beginning of the game. The difference between the first prophecy in Delatrune and the second, and how they don't line up, can be explained by the fact that the first prophecy isn't correct and it's meant to be an Undertale, and the second prophecy is correct and it's meant to be in Delatrune. As the second prophecy and Undertale's prophecy actually fit together better. The Prince from the Dark being worded different than Rousey's title, which is Prince of the Dark. It would be because it's not actually referring to them, instead referring to Kara, as they are metaphorically from the dark, which could be considered the void, the underground, or the fact that before Undertale, they were buried underground, which could be considered the dark. And other than that, this is the truth. This theory is probably wrong. There's definitely a bunch of holes in it, but it's a fun idea, and it can help explain a lot of the issues a lot of people have with both prophecies. If you have any ideas, just leave them down below and check out some other videos.